Hey guys, I'm usually Dave from the Digital Soup Podcast, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're listening to right now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual host. Check out all the other podcasts at gonnageek.com and get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
This is the official gonnageek.com show. Here we're a bunch of geeks talking about geeky things. Each week we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Steven.
But what if I'm in the mood for a T-Swift story?
Chris.
I've heard the X is going to give it to you.
And SP.
That's how we roll on Gonna Geek on Monday night. We get crazy!
Gonna Geek Productions presents the official gonnageek.com show.
Hello and welcome to episode 232 of the official gonnageek.com show. I am Steven Jondrew, and with me, of course, is the legend. I don't have any legends on this show, so I just thought I would just leave that blank. But we do have some people who watch Legends of Tomorrow, and that includes Chris Farrell.
You can call me the French-Canadian sensation. I'm taking that title.
We also have Stargate Pioneer.
Please call me SP. And yes, I do watch Legends of Tomorrow, perhaps the best CW DC comic book show on right now.
More like it is the best CW comic book show on right now.
You know, the sad part is that is so unbelievably true. Except their dynamic is weird this year. Super weird. Super weird. And I'm still not in the groove yet. And I will say that I read the news today about Constantine possibly coming back. And I will say that definitely my least favorite episode of the season is the one with him. So, yeah, not anything to do with him. It was just kind of a weird episode for that series.
You're fired.
Not necessarily. I mean, take a look at who the big bad villain is in that series right now. I think he's needed in order to combat that sort of entity. That's
the problem. Is they need to make sure that they don't go down the serious route, because then you end up with the train wreck that is Arrow this year. So, yeah. My take.
Not gonna argue.
Any opportunity to poo-poo all over Arrow, right?
It's hard to. We've been podcasting. Chris and I have been podcasting on it for 6 years. The show Arrow on the Starling Tribune, and it's just tough seeing the show where it's at right now compared to where it once was. And this year was so promising. And right around the holiday time period, they just ran it into the ground, and we're still scratching our heads over what the heck just happened.
Yeah,
this doesn't change anything, Hoss.
By the way, for those of you who did not watch the show live last week, you should know that I went into a rant post-show, and it never, ever got released. So if you're not checking out the live stream, that's what you're missing out, is possible rants. So you can always check that out at geeks.live on Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. That is 5:45 p.m. Pacific Time. But let's go ahead and roll into the news. Here we go. Stargate Pioneer. I have a question. SP, I have a question for you.
Quest.
One of my favorite things in the world to say is Thule. Can you hook me up?
Great car top carriers, aren't they?
They are, absolutely. I hear they made some great products. So why are we talking about them? Are they launching a Thule rack into space?
That would be so cool if they did. Maybe on the back of the next Starman that goes up. That would be cool, right?
Yeah.
But no, that is not why we're talking about Thule. We're talking about the fact that New Horizons is going to fly by the Ultima Thule. It's kind of a mash between a Nissan and a car carrier, I guess. So, yeah, there you go. What we're talking about is the next target for the New Horizons probe has a nickname. Now, remember what I said there, nickname, not a name, a nickname. So this article by Mike Wall, a space.com senior writer, said that the New Horizons spacecraft next flyby target has a nickname befitting the object's exotic nature and locale. That sounds like a good vacation area, right? A locale, an exotic nature and locale.
Are we talking about like Kal-El? Is that what we're talking about?
you can go wherever you want to with that. I mean, it's your show, so I'm not going to debate you on that. But on January 1st, 2019, the NASA probe, once again, New Horizons, will zoom by this small object, which is officially known as MU-69, and it was named in 2014. And for those of you might think that MU-69 is a familiar name, you need to go back to the previous generation of the Get a Geek intro, in which I say maybe life began on MU-69. So we have talked about. Yeah, we don't know. We've talked about this object before. Now, this object lies about 1 billion miles beyond the orbit of Pluto. And in the process of this flyby, the MU-69, or now Ultima Thule, will become the most distant object ever observed up close, but we don't have to call it MU-69 anymore because the New Horizons team has just nicknamed it Ultima Thule, which is a term used in medieval times to mean, quote, beyond the known world, unquote. See, Thule was a location in far northern Europe, hazily invoked by the ancient Greeks and Romans, and over the years, the term apparently referred to a number of different places, including Norway, Ireland, and Iceland. So the New Horizons principal investigator by the name of Alan Stern, who is from the Southwest Research Institute in Boulder, Colorado, and his colleagues on the New Horizons team settled on the Ultima Thule name after reviewing nicknames proposed and voted on by the public during an outreach campaign that ran from November through December 2017. About 115,000 people around the world participated, submitting 34,000 names. Now, the mission team narrowed this huge pool down to about 29 finalists and ultimately choosing Ultima Thule, which was proposed by 40 different people. So 40 different people thought this was a good name. Now, the team did not go with the top vote getter in this campaign. And if they did, it'd probably be a Bodie McBoatface sort of thing. Instead, they went with something that was befitting of the object. So if they did go with the vote getter, the top vote getter, it would have been called Meow Meow. Yep, I said it. Meow Meow.
I like
which
it.
It's the nickname that we have on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. for Mjolnir, which is the term of Thor's hammer in Norse mythology and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But Ultima Thule was the 7th highest rank getter, and it was just above tiramisu. So would you like your rock named tiramisu? I mean, tiramisu is a dessert. It's not necessarily anyway.
I don't see a problem with it. It'd be tasty.
Right. If it, in fact, was made out of tasty stuff, but it's probably just rock. Anyway, you can see all the results on their website. It's frontierworlds.org/vote-tally. Now, to be clear, as I said before, this is just a nickname. After the 2019 flyby, January 1st, 2019, New Horizons scientists will work with NASA and the International Astronautical Union to come up with a new official name for the object. Ultima Thule is an odd, mysterious object, and in fact, this is news to me, by the way. Scientists don't even know if it's a single body. It might be 2 close orbiting objects, each of which is about 12 miles long. And this encounter, of course, will be the second close flyby for the $700 million. This is how much this probe costs. $700 million New Horizons mission. Of course, the spacecraft flew by Pluto on July 14, 2015, capturing the first ever good looks at that distant, frigid, and complex world.
Wow. So they're naming it after a brand. Is that what it is? Is it going to be like, oh, look, there's the Nest T. It's going to be next.
Really, it's 2 brands. It's a Nissan and it's a car top carrier.
Yeah, exactly. In the chat, we had Kent saying that it will be named something like Planet Mick, not Planet, to which my response is, you mean Pluto Mick Pluto.
And Suncast said Rocky McRockface.
Yes, exactly.
I like that one.
I can get on board with Rocky McRockyface. Or Rocky McRockface.
Yo, Adrian. That's what it's going to do.
All right, so let me ask you this, Stargate Pioneer. Why is it this name? What's so cool about that? It's like, I know it's 7th down on the list, but why that one?
It was just an exotic name. It means beyond the known world. So that's why we're calling it Ultima Thule. It is out there. This is the furthest thing that we'll ever had a chance to take a look at. Of course, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 are farther out, but They don't have any instruments or, quite frankly, the bandwidth to pass back any pictures if they did run into anything. And they don't really have enough power. So this is going to be it for now. We don't really have another probe that's headed out that far with any sort of capabilities to send back. So New Horizons might pass by another object after MU-69. They haven't divulged what the next target might be. I think they're just focused on getting to MU-69 and worrying about what they can or cannot do after that. But other than that, that's it. We don't have another probe that could do this sort of thing.
Well, I look forward to your future update where we find out about the tonneau cover, because I'm sure that's next.
What about the camper shell?
Guys are forgetting the whole Sears, lineup of SV20s or whatever.
That's right. The next one is the Craftsman brand. That's what it is, the Craftsman.
After Sears goes out of business.
When do we get Binford with Tim the Toolman Taylor then?
Oh, that would be so cool. Call it the Binford Car Tough Carrier.
That would be awesome. All right. So let's move on to the next news point, which is courtesy of Vancouver, British Columbia. Special shout out to our financial nerf correspondent Neil for Vancouver. This past weekish, there was a annual conference that was called Pwn to Own, happened in Vancouver, and the long story short is you get a bunch of hackers together in order to try to do good for the world. That's right. It was about a several day event, and what it was a bunch of different products came together, like Oracle VirtualBox, VMware Workstation, Microsoft Hyper-V, Chrome, Safari, Edge, Firefox. Anyways, long story short is there's prize money offered to try to find exposures within these software so that hopefully we can end up seeing a more secure internet. And there was a few notable things that happened as usual in this competition. Number one, just a quick note here. Apparently, day one, there was a couple key products that went down very quickly within that 30-minute window, one of which was Microsoft Edge, and the other was Apple Safari. Both of those there fell victim on day one. Not really surprising, to be honest. The second thing that was very interesting that came out of this was that China, who has usually been the one who has, quote, won, end quote, the Pwn to Own exhibitions over the last few years. Apparently this year, the Chinese government encouraged researchers to report to vendors directly rather than participating in these foreign events that would lead to leaking information to foreign people. So yes, that's very interesting considering that apparently, it's always been somebody from China or a Chinese participant that has ended up winning, that's a word, right? Has wonning this exhibition.
It could be in Chinese. Wanting could be a thing.
It could very well be. I just found that really odd. Like, why is this the year that they decide to do that? It's odd. It's not like really things are that different this year as far as privacy goes. Like, it's kind of usual stuff, isn't it?
They were probably ratcheting down after the whole hacking thing of the Olympic drones. They're like, maybe we shouldn't be so public with everything.
It's not a bad idea.
Who knows? I like this event. I don't spend a lot of time researching it, but I do like the fact that they do try to put all of these hackers and reward them and put them to good and try to find some of these holes, because really they are given a 30-minute window. And so that just shows that these vulnerabilities are pretty easy to access if you can get within 30 minutes. So I think that that's interesting to see this continue on. I like that, of course, it happens in Vancouver. And also the fact that Edge fell on day one. That is the icing on the cake.
But it runs faster on Windows 10 than Chrome.
It runs faster because it doesn't have all of that extra code that helps you prevent getting hacked.
But every time I start up Internet Explorer, it says it's faster.
All right. So next up in the news point here, we've got great news about Rick and Morty, right?
Yeah. Do you guys watch Rick and Morty before we get started on this? Anyone else besides me on the program?
I've watched one episode. It was hilarious, and I just haven't had time to binge watch it. I'm looking forward to taking that time someday. It's a really funny series.
It sounds like you're going to have lots of time. For those that aren't familiar, Rick and Morty is a cartoon on Adult Swim. It's a parody of many sci-fi tropes and genres.
Szechuan sauce people, right?
Yes, the same folks that got McDonald's to bring back the Szechuan sauce is Rick and Morty. And if you're not familiar, between seasons 2 and 3, there was probably about an 18-month delay before the show came out because they wanted to try and perfect it and make sure that season 3 was as good as season 2, if not better. And fans are getting a little cranky now because they haven't had much word on what's happening with season 4. In fact, they're getting so cranky, they're tweeting directly at Dan Harmon, one of the creators of Rick and Morty, also known for shows like Community, and expressing their displeasure. And why I bring this up, I normally wouldn't, is that Dan Harmon might have exposed some behind-the-scenes gossip on what might be happening. So someone had tweeted to him basically blaming the writing staff and complaining about the fact that Rick and Morty season 4 hadn't started, or they hadn't even started writing it. And his response was, "I hear you, tough spot. On one hand, it can be challenging, especially with crippling lazy alcoholism to write a show that hasn't been ordered by a network. On the other hand, the thought that fans like you pay the price, I mean, I'm going to grab a drink." What came out of that? Adult Swim has yet to pick up an order for season 4 of Rick and Morty, which is arguably one of their bigger breakouts of recent memory. It's kind of surprising, but at the same time, maybe not, because there's always been rumors of butting heads between the Adult Swim management and the Rick and Morty management, and there were rumors of fighting behind the scenes on season 3 production. I hope that's not the case. I really hope they're just taking their time to get everything going. But the way Rick and Morty has kind of caught on in the popular lexicon, become so popular, they really need to get a move on this, I would hope. I mean, it's going to take a while. They talked to one of the series writers, Ryan Ridley, in January, where he said they might not even be ready until late 2019 at this rate. According to him, he said, "They really take their time. I never understood why everybody, all parties, Dan Harmon, Justin Roiland, and Adult Swim, didn't get their expletive together and make the show fast. I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm sure they all have their reasons." So everyone, including Dan Harmon, seems to be scratching their head as to why season 4 has not been picked up by Adult Swim yet. I assume it's going to happen at some point, and if it doesn't, I hope Netflix swoops in and says, "Here's a bunch of money. Come do Rick and Morty on our streaming service, and just whenever you have episodes ready, we're going to air them." But I'm slightly worried at this point.
Well, first of all, in this era of hashtag Me Too, of trying to hold accountability for Hollywood creators, and I'll just term this as a Hollywood creator, that might have an impact on the future of the creation of new properties. And then also, I mean, take a look at Venture Brothers. There's years between series there. If you want to go back to the big HBO days, right? They had large swaths of time in between. What was that gangster or
Sopranos.
Sopranos. Yeah, Sopranos, and Battlestar Galactica had some time too. Of course, that was writer strike related. So if you have a good enough property, a popular enough IP, people will wait a little bit for it, but you just can't wait forever for it.
Well, and we're seeing that Chris and I both watch Better Call Saul on AMC, and we just the other day got talking because realized that they were just tweeting out about being back on set. And usually Better Call Saul is filmed, locked up, and ready to release in, I think, April timeline. And it's looking like it's not going to be that way this year because there's no announced release day. So you're seeing these delays more and more. I don't know what that's about. If it's just, networks are hesitant to sign on to these shows because, like you said, people can come back. Maybe they want to try some new things, or it's just something else that it's just, the current year or something like that. I don't know. It's bizarre, but, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say the difference with Better Call Saul is that AMC greenlit the next season before this last season was even done. Adult Swim hasn't made a deal with Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon yet for season 4 here. So it's a slightly different scenario here as you've got a popular show, but they aren't making a deal either side. So I think that's the bigger question mark is why isn't the deal happening? The Better Call Saul delay, while annoying, it wasn't because of any drama between the two parties because AMC renewed that early on.
That's true. That's a fair point. I will say this, that maybe it just comes down to cash. Maybe somebody's demanding too much cash.
Well, that's what one of the commenters said on IO9. They said, why pay for new shows when you can air reruns of Family Guy, American Dad, and King of the Hill for eternity? Because if you go on Adult Swim, there's a lot of those replays on there.
It just depends on how many viewers they get in order to justify the advertisement for what they're paying for the show. Okay, so there's that. Now, I want to give an example that was a little bit more recent, at least for me, The Last Ship. Now, that had been going on for a while, and arguably maybe it had gone to the end of its run. But last year, they ran into a production halt because the head producer and actor on the show, Eric Dane, checked himself into rehab because he was having suicidal thoughts, depression, stuff like that. All good things, but that impacted the show. As a matter of fact, I think it impacted the show way too much. And then this past season was just not good at all. They do have another season. I think it's already been filmed. They put it in the can. I think this will be the last season this summer and it will air on time. But you have those sorts of reasons going on behind the scene on different shows as well.
With the timelines, and I know this is more in line with the Better Call Saul one of the things that also occurred to me that's really weird is, like, look at the way that the Orville ended up being received. Like, lots of really good reception on that, yet that also is looking like that's not coming to 2019. So I think that isn't making the September debut. So I don't know. I guess we're just in a really weird situation with television right now. I'm not sure what all of this shift is about.
I'm so used to Netflix now where it's like, here you go. It might have taken 2 years, but here's 13 episodes. Watch them at your own pace. And we'll see you again in 2 years.
Yeah, and by the way, just to clarify in the chat, Kent is asking, saying, I thought Orville was renewed. Yes, but I believe that it's not coming till January. And
they are filming right now.
They are,
though.
But yeah, I think that is not coming for the fall 2018 release.
If you're Fox and you've got football on your channels, you're going to prioritize that and then throw Orville in after. As a matter of fact, that's what it was the first time around, right? It came in about the time the NFL season was over?
No, it started in September.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. All right, well, moving on to our extra news section here. Let's talk briefly about something interesting from the world of Microsoft. That's right. If you have any Microsoft service, the odds are in the last week, you probably got an email from them outlining an update to the Microsoft Services Agreement. Yes, the Microsoft Services Agreement did come out, and they just had a whole bunch of things that they wanted to say. And one of the things that they put in here is they clarified that their code of conduct section, which does apply to all Microsoft services, they've clarified that the use of offensive language is prohibited. So yes, that is something that they have put into their Microsoft Service Agreement, which, as we all know, covers things like Xbox Live, covers Skype, covers Mixer, covers a whole bunch of stuff. And yes, that is now in there. And so I wanted to talk about that because I really want to say a big F-bomb right now just to violate multiple things, but I forgot to go live on Mixer, so I can't maximize my spread.
Wait a minute. If you use Microsoft Word to type your erotic novel, technically you're violating the terms of service.
Oh, I love it. Oh, yeah.
So no more 50 Shades on Word.
No, it's the Steven and the Alien Chronicles is what I was writing, SP. He went to space to find some space extras, just like Captain Kirk. He's his idol.
You know what, though? This brings up a good point that SP probably is writing some erotica.
Oh, no, not at all. But I know a lot of people do because it's all over Patreon.
Wink, wink.
If you want to check this out, you definitely go ahead and head on over to geeks.link/code. We'll make it that. Geeks.link/code. We'll save you a few keystrokes because you're going to have to save them anyways with your lack of erotica. But
why don't you do geeks.link/erotica?
All right. Well, it's geeks.link/erotica as well. Why not? They're both up and live.
It's all about the SEO, man.
Geeks.link/erotica will take you right over to this. And yeah, number 5, it says in the code of conduct section, we've clarified that the use of offensive language and fraudulent activity is prohibited. So it also says we've also clarified that violation of the code of conduct through Xbox services may result in suspensions or bans from participation in Xbox services. So yeah, Chris, no more swearing over your Xbox Live. Not going to happen.
F&A, man, I'm on it.
I know, exactly. And also in the extra news section, this was a sad piece of news, wasn't it, SP?
It was indeed. This happened the day after we record, or a couple days after we recorded last week. It happened on Pi Day, March 14th, and unfortunately, Stephen Hawking passed away at the age of 76 in his home in Cambridge, England. And for those of you that might not know, Stephen Hawking was a brilliant physicist at the University of Cambridge, and he was diagnosed with the degenerative nerve disease, ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease, at the age of 21. And he made it to the age of 76, pretty much astounding everybody. So bravo, sir, bravo. And in 1966, he published his doctoral thesis, which argued that the entire universe began as a singularity, thus the Big Bang Theory. That's Stephen Hawking, Big Bang Theory guy. So he went on to reshape our understanding of black holes, saying that black holes actually emit radiation. They don't just suck up everything. So Disney is in the process of revising the black hole movie because of that. Not a true story, but I thought that was pretty cool. And then Stephen Hawking wrote A Brief History of Time in 1988. You can get that through Bantam Books. And then also, a little known fact, he actually was the only person that was ever offered a free seat aboard Virgin Galactic Spaceship Two. And that's directly from the company founder of Virgin Galactic, Sir Richard Branson. And he also said that Stephen Hawking actually named Spaceship Two, which is VSS Unity. And for those that have been listening to Gonna Geek for a while, you know that we've covered the crash of Spaceship One, which was VSS Enterprise. So Stephen Hawking named it VSS Unity. And he did a bunch of other stuff. I just don't want to focus on VSS Unity, but that just shows how pervasive he was. He never made it into space, but he had a free ticket if he could have just held on for a couple more years. So if held on for until 76, when you're diagnosed of ALS at 21, that's some amazing stuff. So like I said, bravo across the board, great life, great impact on humanity, and great fighting that ALS for so many years. I always loved his appearances on The Big Bang Theory because it was just him in a wheelchair and of course his electric voiceover, but they were the funniest jokes on the show. So always liked to see him there.
Suppose he was a very funny guy in real life too.
Yeah, I had read that too. It's sad. Definitely a legend. Like I remember when I was a kid seeing him and not really knowing too much about why he was important. Like full disclosure when I was a kid, but still knowing who he was. So he's definitely was one of the biggest names in recent years.
I mean, the three of us know of Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein was a legend, probably because of the atomic bomb, but he was a legend about the time that we were growing up and in school. Kids today now will think Stephen Hawking is a legend. And I don't know when the next legend is going to happen. You know, Newton, Einstein, Galileo, Stephen Hawking, they can all be said in the same name now. But whoever it is, it's going to be awesome. And I'm so glad that we have part of this human community that can make such leap forwards in science and technology. And Stephen Hawking was one of them. And it was a leap forward for him medically, as well as in the education room, the schoolhouse. It's just a sad loss for humanity, but at the same time, it's time to celebrate his life. This is more than about a week later that we're recording this, and it's definitely still a time to celebrate his life. So we just had to mention him on the show, and it's important enough to say, rest in peace, Mr. Hawking, and we thank you for your service to humanity.
Absolutely. Finally, in our extra news section here, we've got an update from Atari. That's right. If you have not heard about this, Atari is releasing a new console. There were some images leaked a while back, and now we've got a name. So we have that it is the Atari VCS, and the VCS looks totally like it's out of the 80s, which is good because allegedly this is a retro device, and it will, quote, change the way you interact with your TV, end quote. Now, here's the awesome thing about the Atari VCS is we still don't know much about it. In fact, some of the awesome quotes from the press release is, I'll just read it out word for word. Inspired by the iconic silhouette of the original Atari 2600 video computer system, the new Atari VCS has already generated considerable excitement within the gaming community. Its skillful blend of modern lines and reverential details combined with contemporary content technology and new innovation has evoked positive reactions from Atari fans, both new and old. The Atari VCS will, of course, serve up lots of classic content, but it is so much more than a, quote, retro box, end quote. It is completely new. Sorry, let me clarify that. It is a completely new Atari connected device designed for today's living room, end quote. So yeah, that's a very wordy press release, which I'm intentionally leaving in my misfumbles there because honestly, it's just ridiculously wordy that just speaks volumes to what this is, which is who the hell knows? It's a whole bunch of crap out of somebody's butt.
Pretty much. The guys over at Digital Soup were talking about it when it was first announced to be a Kickstarter project and all that. We still don't know anything. The talk was, we're going to make a Linux-based box that'll play cutting-edge games, but you'll also be able to play all of your retro games all on one box. And I scratched my head and went, well, I have a computer and I have another console already. I can do all of this. Where is my reason to buy this Atari console? I still haven't seen one. In this press release full of buzzwords, basically playing buzzword bingo, does not really entice me to be like, oh my God, I must buy this Atari box and immediately plug it into my home theater. I go, oh, this is the next Oya, isn't it?
Well said.
R.I.P. Oya.
Strangely enough, this morning I was over at a relative's house. I was waiting for a serviceman to come over and do some work. And this house, it doesn't have internet. It doesn't have any HD TVs. There's just two old tube TVs in there. And yes, they're still connected to the cable. So there's that. But I'm waiting there for more than a half an hour. And at some point in time, I was like, what is there to do? And then I look underneath the living room TV and there's one of the original, not the original, but the original revised, the rebooted Atari system. So I was like, I should turn that on. But then the serviceman guy came. So.
Okay, so if it's the Atari that I'm thinking of, the only thing that I can say is this Atari that comes out should, in theory, sell to a certain nostalgia market because the third-party Ataris that came out, I forget who makes them, but I know somebody who has one, and they use IR controllers, so they are next to impossible to use well. They cut out all the time because they're IR controllers. So I could see that market definitely picking up, but I don't like these buzzwords. Like, come on, it's ridiculous press releases, and they should just go in and say, no, we're not going to send out a press release.
Well, and supposedly it's April. The pre-order is open on it. So I'm sitting here going, you're not even waiting for E3 to do something around E3 and tell us more about this? You want me to pre-order a box where you've given me a couple press releases with flowery words that tell me nothing about what it does. This is a hard no sale to me right now. It would take a lot right now to change my opinion.
Absolutely. All right, well, that's going to go ahead and wrap up the news. If you got something that you want to tell us, please do get in touch with us through any of the ways. You can always give us a call at 567-343-4335. That's 567-343-GEEK. You can always email us show@gonnageek.com or head on over to gonnageek.com. We always want to know, what would you like us to talk about? Just get in touch with us. We'll throw it into the next episode. If not, SP guarantees that he will give you a thumbs up. There you go. Now you've got your thumbs up. So now we're ahead of the game. Let's go ahead and roll into Chris Taps That App.
While you may know Chris loves phones, tablets, and other gadgets, did you know he's also a master tap dancer? It's time for him to combine the two passions in a segment he calls Chris Taps That App.
All right, Chris, so you're going to tap that app this week, and I saw this, and when you first put this in the doc, I'm like, wait, is it an app? So this is exciting.
It is an app, and I apologize, guys. My tap dancing's a little rusty, so it wasn't as good as I would like. But as I set up to talk about this app, you guys have probably heard over the last 18 months or so on this podcast and the various other ones I do that I've gradually been upgrading and replacing bits of my home theater. It all started with getting a new 4K screen, eventually got the Xbox One X to do 4K gaming on it, and then I eventually replaced my El Cheapo home theater in a box with a custom setup that I built with a giant receiver that has like 7 HDMI inputs on it. So I've made all of these steps. There was one final piece to do now that I got all of my speakers installed. On Friday, last week on Friday, I received the last 2 speakers that had been back ordered, and I installed Dolby Atmos speakers. Are you guys familiar with what Dolby Atmos is before I go on?
I am, yes.
I am, because I got the new actual gaming headset, which has Dolby Atmos in it, and I found out what Dolby Atmos was. It's awesome.
But enlighten me. Let's pretend for a minute that I don't know.
So for those of you that aren't aware what Dolby Atmos is, it's referred to as 3D or spatial sound. The thought is basically setting it up so that the sounds you hear in a movie, like a helicopter going over or bullets being rained down from above, you get that same experience either with headphones or in your living room. And there's various ways to do it. You can put speakers in your ceiling and have them fire down. You can do what I did, which is buy actual Atmos speakers, which are angled about like this. And what it does is it fires the sound up at the ceiling and reflects down off the ceiling down to where you're sitting. That's what I did. Why did I do this? Well, because a lot of newer Blu-rays and some video games and stuff like that will allow you to play games or watch that movie with Dolby Atmos sound. A lot of movie theaters are doing that as well. The real question is, how do you get it to work? Well, the first step, you gotta have a sound bar or a receiver that is Dolby Atmos compatible. Now, the good thing is most of your mid-level or higher receivers and sound bars nowadays seem to be Dolby Atmos capable. So in my setup, I'm using my Xbox One X to get Dolby Atmos. There is an app that you can get for free on both Xbox One and Windows 10 called Dolby Access that will enable Dolby Atmos sound for home theaters and also for headphones. So let's walk through what it is you have to do. It's real simple. You just go to the Xbox Marketplace or the Windows Marketplace, type in Dolby, and Dolby Access will show up as the first app to download. Download it. It's like 60 megs, I want to say, 60 or 80 megs. Download it pretty quick. You launch it, and it takes you to a fairly simple setup. The first thing it asks you to do is say whether you're setting up Atmos for headphones or for a home theater. In this case, I was doing a home theater. And from that point, it walked me through how to configure my Xbox appropriately so that I could get Dolby Atmos sound coming out of it. What did that entail? Basically, it took me into the settings of my Xbox where I told it in the sound settings to let my home theater decode the audio over HDMI. Instead of sending out a 5.1 signal, I was just sending a raw signal out for my receiver to do the decoding. Now, it's important here to realize if you want to use Dolby Atmos, this has to be done via HDMI cables. You cannot use an optical cable to send a signal that would handle Dolby Atmos. Optical is only going to handle 5.1 surround. HDMI cables, however, will handle far more than that. So you have to have an HDMI cable going from your Xbox to your receiver or to your Dolby Atmos compatible sound bar, excuse me. I also had to update a couple settings for my Blu-rays, basically the same thing. Tell it to let the receiver decode the audio. And from that point, I was done. And the app knows you're done. Once the setup is done, they take you to a splash page and say, hey, here's a bunch of demo videos you can play to see how Dolby Atmos works. Because you've gone through this effort to set it up. Why don't you experience it? So the first one that was on there was a 2.5-minute trailer from Assassin's Creed Origins that's got rock slides coming down, arrows being fired at you. And I was like, I wonder how good this is actually going to be. And I went to where I'd calibrated my system specifically to have the sweet spot. I stood it and I played this trailer. And guys, it was pretty awesome, as it sounded like there were arrows raining down on me, a rock slide coming down on top of my head. It was a pretty cool experience. Now, granted, this was just a video clip. It's not quite as immersive as playing a game or watching a full-blown movie. So I also tried some clips from Planet Earth that were provided in their demo. Also, pretty cool experience. The best experience for me, though, I popped in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 into my Xbox One X. I have the 4K Blu-ray for it, which has Dolby Atmos track on it. And I fast-forwarded to the Dancing Groot scene, for lack of a better term, where the Guardians are fighting a giant space monster that can breathe fire and is raining destruction down on them while Groot dances around. And when he's breathing fire down from the sky, it sounds like it's coming down at me. I went over to my Atmos speakers and I put my ear over when it was about to fire. You'd get no sound until you had that sound that would be coming from above or below fired out of them. It was pretty cool. It made a very different experience. It made a more immersive experience for watching the movie. I didn't watch the whole thing. I was just playing with it because I wanted to see how it worked. But it is not just movies that this works with. There are also a bunch of Xbox One games.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the bow chicka bow wow. Oh.
Bow chicka wow wow. I wish I had that. I don't have my soundboard on. I'd play it for you.
I was talking about the actual sound, not anything adult. That's what I was talking about.
No, I'd play the sound for you. It's
Good,
on my
perfect.
soundboard.
Awesome. Okay, cool. We're on the same page.
We're on the same page. So a couple other things. Also, you can play some video games with the Dolby Atmos experience. Assassin's Creed Origins was the demo video that they showed in the app. So that is one of the games you can do that with. Gears of War 4, which is a fairly older Windows game. They updated it to have Dolby Atmos compatible track. Final Fantasy 15, Rise of the Tomb Raider, For Honor, and Super Lucky's Tale are all games that currently have an Atmos audio track. Now, I've only played a little bit of Assassin's Creed Origins and Gears of War 4 on there, and it was pretty cool because, again, it's so much more immersive because you wouldn't think it makes a difference, and it's very subtle. But once you start to get used to it, you're like, oh, wow, it really does feel like things are getting rained down from the sky upon me. And the coolest way for you to experience it, you might not have any of these games, but if you have an Xbox and you've put all the Atmos app on there and set everything up, there's a free tech demo that Microsoft put out called Insects that basically shows you how they do 4K, HDR, and spatial audio. And you can toggle them off and on throughout this video of insects flying around on plants and collecting pollen and things like that. And I brought my fiance down. I said, here, check this out. Turn the spatial audio on and then turn it off and said, did you notice the difference? She's like, oh yeah, I did. So it was a really cool event for me to be able to do that. The setup was incredibly easy. It's, like I said, it's available on both Xbox and Windows 10. And I have played with games and with movies, but I did find some other stuff it works with too on the Xbox.
Ooh, what's it work with?
So this is what surprised me. I did a little research and found out and then had to try it for myself. I figured I was just limited to a few games and to 4K Blu-rays. Well, that is not the case. Netflix on the Xbox One, S, and X is Dolby Atmos compatible. So assuming you're set up for that, you are able...
Sorry to interrupt. Do you know, is it only the Ultra HD or whatever they call it on Netflix, or is it all Netflix?
It's only select titles. It's some of the 4K titles that has a Dolby Atmos logo that will show up where you normally select the 5.1 for surround sound. It says Atmos instead.
Gotcha.
Now, here's where it gets interesting, is you can only do Dolby Atmos Netflix on the Windows 10 Netflix app, assuming you're on Windows 10, a recent release, any of the new Xbox Ones, and LG OLED TVs from 2017 and newer. Those are the only devices that will do Dolby Atmos sound with Netflix right now.
It must be a bandwidth issue, so it's probably coming soon.
I don't know what it is. That's what I thought at first too, but I also have a Roku Premiere Plus, which is last gen, but it has the Vudu app on it. And Vudu you can stream 4K movies on, and all of my 4K movies on the Roku have Atmos tracks on them. So I'm not sure what Netflix's limitation is. Maybe they're just using these select clients as beta tests to iron out how they want to handle Dolby Atmos with stuff. But if you want to experience, say, Jessica Jones or The Punisher in Dolby Atmos, the only way to experience it is with an LG OLED TV, Windows 10, or an Xbox right now.
It could very well be. You might have hit it on the head there, because Netflix is notorious for having different interfaces per device. Like, we just put a Fire Stick Basic in the bedroom, and my wife was going through there, and she's like, there's way more categories on here than I ever saw with the Chromecast app. So definitely that could be, maybe they just haven't updated those ones yet.
So you can't get it while streaming your Netflix through a Wii?
Nope. You cannot through a Wii, you cannot through a Roku. I figured a Roku would be able to do it since a Vudu app on the Roku does it right now. But Netflix has it locked down to a very select few devices. My only guess is in preparation to roll it out to more right now. And I didn't have a chance to test it on my Xbox. There is a Vudu app. I don't use it on my Xbox. I use it on my Roku. I'm going to log into that and see whether it flips my surround sound system over to Dolby Atmos when I play some of the 4K content there. I couldn't get a good read on it from reading the Vudu support forums and the help documents, what devices supported Atmos sound.
Yeah, Roku is notorious for giving just enough technical specifications to make you wonder on high-end sort of things and then not be able to actually understand whether it's available or not. So let us know if it ever pops in there, because I've got several Roku Premiere Pluses and Ultras in the house, and I would love to see that. I don't currently have a Dolby Atmos sound system in my house. I actually have a sound bar that's in my sights that's at Best Buy Amazon right now. But the quality of sound that you can get on a home theater, what is the use of actually going to a theater these days? This is a no-brainer. Stay at home, for me at least. I don't need the extra strife of having to go buy tickets and listen to some kid chew popcorn next to me.
And that's exactly though why when we talked a few weeks back, we put that poll up there asking what people would pay. I myself said I would pay more for those exact reasons, because I would invest in something like this and you make your money back in the long run, even if you're paying a little bit more, because you're not going in and being enticed by the candy or the whatever and spending the gas to get there. And so anyways, Chris, let me ask you this. Sounds like very cool, very neat, but it must have been very expensive to get into.
It depends. If you catch deals, I'd been buying bits and pieces for my surround sound, and I lucked out that we were going up to go see Game Night. I think it was the movie theater, and we stopped at Best Buy to kill some time, and they had just put out their stack of open box stuff and put them all half off. So I picked up like my subwoofer and my receiver, which is arguably one of the most expensive pieces, for like 60% off on each of them. So a receiver that normally would be about $600, I picked up for $250. And then I'd been pricing out things and waiting for sales. Like I got my Atmos speakers for half off. So yes, it was pricey, but it could have been far worse had I paid full price for everything on it. And I have greatly enjoyed my experience. And yeah, it's been good.
That's awesome. Can you use the Atmos track without a 4K TV?
Yes. From
Okay.
what I can tell, it does not have to have a 4K visual to be able to use that the Atmos track, but you'd be basically downsampling 4K content into 1080p.
Which the reason I asked that is because like we went to the soundbar thing ourselves when we got the little gremlins. I mean the kids, and they started to pull things and whatnot. So we're like, yeah, no more speakers until they're older and everything. And so I would at one point like to go back into and it won't be now, it'll probably be 5 years from now, but into something like this where it's a better sound system. But I would prioritize myself the sound system over the TV if the TV continued working. But because I just like 4K video would be nice, but I'd like to get that sound back. So
HDR is more important than 4K, is what I've come to realize. Is that the pop of the colors? You're going to notice that a lot more than you are the extra pixels that you do for 4K.
Okay, but yeah, I'd just like to have the audio, so that would be good to know, or that's good to know, I should say.
Yeah, so I should wrap up my little bit here on the Dolby Access app that you can get. Like I mentioned earlier, it is free for home theaters. However, when you go to set it up, remember I mentioned there was a headphone option and a home theater option. If you want to use it for headphones, there is a one-time fee of $14.99 to set up Dolby Atmos to work with your headphones off of your Xbox or your Windows PC. Now, from what they say in the Dolby site, they say Atmos rendering works with all headphones. Any set of stereo headphones, including earbuds that you connect to your Windows 10 PC or console, will give you the full effect. However, if you want the best effect, you should be looking for the headphones, probably the cans that point blank specify they're Atmos capable, Atmos compatible, because that's what's been tuned appropriately to give you the Atmos experience. And like I mentioned earlier, the Access app is available for Windows 10 and Xbox globally, wherever Windows 10, the OS, is available. So whatever country you're in, assuming Windows 10 is available in your country, you too can get the Dolby Access app, set up Atmos for your home theater, or pay the $15 or whatever the local equivalent is to have your headphones give you Dolby Atmos sound when you're consuming content.
Fun fact, over on the Gonna Geek Gear channel, I reviewed very briefly for podcasting purposes the Plantronics Rig 800LX gaming chat headset, which is meant for the Xbox. There's actually another one that's meant for the PS4. It comes with a free $15 app that you could use a coupon code to redeem for the $15 Dolby Atmos app. So if you get those headphones capable of the Dolby Atmos sound or optimized for it, you get the free $15 app fee, so you don't have to pay that.
I gotta say, the headphones, I've never been a big headphones sort of guy with watching movies and whatnot, but with what has come out with Atmos, I could definitely see myself doing that before I got into that stereo situation that I told you about, because usually it's just me and my wife watching a movie, and if we can't really crank it up too much because the kids are sleeping usually when we're watching movies and whatnot. So it's very tempting to do something like this. even just with headphones, and I could just do it late at night and just turn things up really loud.
The trade-off is I haven't done the research on SP, probably knows better since he's actually got Atmos capable. And Suncast just asked in the chat room, are there wireless Atmos capable headphones? That's what I don't know.
They are wireless.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
It's got a little dongle that you plug in. You can use it on your computer too. And it's got a little switch to go back and forth between the Xbox and the computer so that the correct drivers will load for it. And yeah, it's wireless.
All right, you convinced me, Chris. I'm going to look into something like that. Maybe put that on the wish list, even if I start with headphones.
You need 2 sets, though, if your wife's watching with you.
Do I need 2 headsets? I'm sorry, huh? I mean, never mind. Yes, we do need 2 headsets. Yes, you're right. Well, thanks for sharing that there, Chris, because I got to admit, I didn't hear about Atmos at all until you told me about it about a month ago, I think it was. So really cool, neat to hear. It sounds like you're very happy with your build, and it sounds like it is what you expected.
I might have gone overboard with my build once I saw how big my rear channel speakers were, but that's neither here nor there.
With gaming wise, do you find that it makes a difference? Like, is that something that you enjoy that? Because I don't know. For me, I get so fixated on what I'm playing that I don't know that I'd enjoy it as much.
So I haven't played a ton of Gears of War 4 since I got the Atmos speakers, because I got them Friday and then we had company on Saturday and I'm busy on Sunday. So I've only played like a half hour, 45 minutes of actual gaming using those speakers, and it made it a more immersive experience. And maybe I'm partially noticing it because I went from my home theater in a box that didn't always properly decode 5.1 surround sound to my current setup that absolutely perfectly decodes the sound and gives me Atmos, but it felt much more immersive, like I was saying earlier. I mean, it literally sounded to me like stuff was coming from above down at me. Like there was a lightning storm in this level I was on in Gears of War 4, and it sounded to me like the lightning was crackling over top of my head.
Wow. That's really
It's
cool.
impressive. That's what sold me, because I was listening to it in the store. That's what sold me on the headphones. I'm like, I'm so getting this. And then I went over to the sound bars, take a look at those. So yeah, I mean, the sound definitely sells itself.
Cool. Awesome. So if you have experience with this, please do get in touch with us through any of the ways. We'd like to know what has been your experience, and did Chris do it all wrong? How did he do it wrong? We want to know. I
probably screwed everything up.
We want to know. And did that end the world? But before we do wrap up, we do want to remind you that we are part of the Gonna Geek Network. There's a plethora of amazing geeky content on the Gonna Geek Network. If you haven't checked it out, please do head on over to GonnaGeekNetwork.com. You're going to see a bunch of awesome shows, a lot of fun to be had over there. And if there's something geeky that you're into, the odds are we probably have a show for it, including the one and only Game Life Balance US, which in episode 49 titled Is Super Metroid a Perfect Game? Cody poses the question and John tries to come up with answers as they review this classic title of the SNES Classic. If you haven't been listening to Game Life Balance US, they've been going through a run of talking about the Super Nintendo classic games that are on there. Who knows? Maybe they'll move on to Atari once that hits the shelves.
Don't encourage them to do that. Nobody buy that Atari box until we know what it does. In all seriousness, don't fall for the clickbait. Don't fall for the buzzwords. Wait until you actually see what this box does. Don't throw your cash away.
Also, by the way, if you are on the Twitter sphere, you should head on over to twitter.com/producer Cody. So that's twitter.com/producer Cody. And you should tell him how awesome Return to Castlevania is. Make sure you tell him that. Even if you don't know what it is, make sure you tell him that. And I'll spell it out for you. It's CASTLEVANIA. Just tell him how awesome Return to Castlevania is.
It's really important to him. You really need to go ahead and do that. And by the way, it's the verified Twitter handle at Producer Cody.
Absolutely. Chris, do you have anything that you'd like to plug or promote?
Same thing. Tell Cody Return to Castlevania is the greatest game ever. Make sure you CC the Gonna Geek account or something like that. We'll keep this going. We'll retweet this stuff.
Awesome. SP?
This week, we recorded an episode of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., episode 233, on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., season 5, episode 13, Principia. in which there's a frickin' flying ship in it. It is awesome. So go check that out. That's Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode 233.
I just watched that last night because I got busy this weekend, and that was fun. That was really cool to see, and it was pretty awesome. So you should definitely check that out. But for episode 232 of the official GonnaGeek.com show, I'm Stephen John Drew saying I can't wait to talk to Chris in Dolby Atmos.
I don't want to hear Steven coming down from the sky at me. It scares me.
And I'm SP saying, rest in peace, Dr. Stephen Hawking.
Rest in peace, indeed.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or a thumbs up on YouTube. You can always join us for our live recording sessions, which stream Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. And remember, you can find our full back catalog at GonnaGeek.com/show. If you're itching for more geeky content, check out other shows on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Voice work was by Emily Prokop of The Story Behind podcast. That's it for this episode. We hope to see you back again next week.